Lost Planet 3 abandons the co-op of Lost Planet 2 and focuses on a single-player story. And to its credit, it manages to tell a pretty good prequel tale that explains how the battle for planet EDN-3 began. Interplanetary miner Jim Payton makes a convincing everyman hero, and it mixes up its mediocre third-person gunplay by letting you jump into a towering industrial mech and take on alien monsters. But since neither type of fighting is particularly well done, Lost Planet 3 ends up as not much more than the sum of its parts.
At its best, science is chaotic and unpredictable. Often produces a foul odor that you cannot scrub from your fingers.
Most of Lost Planet 3 is surprisingly well written and acted. It's a typical going native story, in the same vein as movies like Pocahontas and Avatar. But for the most part, its characters are well fleshed out and have believable motivations. Even the villain is just out to save Earth.
You wouldn't. Tell me again what you think I am.
The asynchronous video mail conversations between Peyton and his wife back on Earth are very well done. Their human and heartfelt messages make him easy to empathize with. And I love the picture of his wife that's pinned to the mech cockpit, never letting us forget why he's there.
There's us looking dapper. And my shrine to you.
For a game set entirely on a bleak, Hoth-like ice world, Lost Planet 3 manages some cool visual moments. Blinding floodlights give your mech an impressive sense of scale, and no opportunity to splash bright orange alien blood all over the canopy is missed. There are some impressively intense storms, too. It's really undermined by two things. For one, there are some absolutely horrible performances mixed in, which both make the good actors look better and Lost Planet 3 as a whole look bad. Also, there are some really janky animations in here. The most annoying and frequent one is when Peyton fires his Batman-esque grappling hook, and he's pulled up at a really weird angle. Lost Planet 3 masquerades as an open-world game, but it's really much more limited than that. Like Id's Rage, it's a maze of corridors that you have to navigate to reach the next mission, with a couple of bases to return to after. But the icy landscape isn't interesting enough, and the mech isn't fast enough to make traversing it worth the time. Jumping between the slightly subpar third-person shooting and Pacific Rim-style melee battles is a good way to mix up the combat. It gives you two totally different ways to fight the same monsters. But since the shooting is a repetitive cycle of dodging attacks and blasting glowing weak points with uninteresting weapons, and the mech combat is a disappointingly passive dance of waiting for the enemy to attack so you can counter it, it's never really great. Most of the alien acrid bugs you fight are easily swatted pests that explode from a single bullet, or the giant monsters with glowing weak spots. Of course, when the story switches from fighting acrid to human soldiers about 8 hours in, the poor AI becomes much more obvious, and it turns into a really uninteresting cover-based shooter. Lost Planet 3 is guilty of frequent quick-time events whenever an alien tries to kill you up close, but I do like the aiming mechanic that's built in. It makes these fights feel much more interactive. The biggest frustration in Lost Planet 3, though, is its lack of consistency. It's great to be able to jump in and out of your mech at will, but it'll randomly lock you in at points. Can you grapple that ledge? Probably not, but you do have to check. Can you fall off that cliff? Probably not. But just when you've gotten used to the idea that an invisible wall will stop you, you fall to your death. Also, I was constantly getting caught on the geometry of the environment, especially in tight corridors. Unlike Lost Planet 2, there's no trace of co-op multiplayer in the campaign. There is team-based competitive multiplayer though, with 6 maps, the typical persistent skill progression system, and up to 10 players. The gimmick here is that objectives shift over the course of a match, giving you some good variety. What begins as 2 teams competing to hunt down an alien beast turns into a capture the flag match, where you have to grab its remains and return them to your base. The final round of what starts as a co-op bug swatting game turns into a King of the Hill territory control game. But with shooting mechanics that are no more than average underneath it all, don't expect big things from these modes. Lost Planet 3 at least has a respectable story and some good combat variety to it, even if the pieces don't always come together quite right. Jumping in and out of that mech keeps it from being just another cover-based shooter. And if not for a level design that's full of frustrating inconsistencies, it might have even been good enough to recommend. For more on Lost Planet 3, stick with IGN.